For latest updates and short audio clips, follow us on Instagram, Reading the Author.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast Reading the Author, a unique show where we read authors' mind and not their book. Meanwhile, I truly believe and pray कि आप और आपका पूरा परिवार healthy हो, happy हो, safe हो. Guys, today we have a very special guest. Today we have author Dr. Anitha Chakravarthy Sriram, and she is the author of a couple of books, starting with Jaya Vijaya Bharata, and the second one is Branches Facing the Earth. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming on our show. It is my honor to be able to host you today.
Good evening, Gaurav. I hope you're doing well, and thank you very much for hosting me today.
Pleasure, ma'am. So, ma'am, like before we get into the podcast and know much more about your upcoming work, about your book and everything, I would request you to please introduce yourself so that our listeners can know much more about you, and do share how you started this writing journey.
All right. I'm Dr. Anitha Chakravarthy Sriram. I'm a medical professional practicing pathology in Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. I am an author for the love of writing and extremely passionate about it. I was born into a traditional Hindu household, and my forefathers had great academic excellence. But what I saw in them was they were great believers of faith and wisdom. Also, I was born in the time when reading books was one of our very serious and favorite pastimes. So right from when a child is born and has acquired the aptitude of understanding its surroundings, my household, my mother, flavored my food with mythology. So the first credit of writing about mythology begins from my Indian household. My mother would begin her narration as Hanuman flew so many miles to reach the Lanka. She would begin that way while feeding me. And if I asked her, how can Hanuman alone fly so? She would say, because he ate his food right. His mother gave him the right vegetables. So this used to be the model for a 5-year-old me. So what really began as moral stories to ensure that I followed discipline, cultivated into good habits, and slowly became a part of my daily routine. This upbringing, I must say, is the basic foundation of what I am today. Also, I must thank my school for teaching us not only to excel in academics, but also emphasizing on the importance of moral upbringing. This kind of a very strong framework is very much required for a good society to live in. And coming about my journey for books, this is how it basically started. I was not really thinking that I would take the journey of writing so forward. In fact, my first book is titled Jaya Vijaya Bharata, which is a compilation of carefully selected characters from the Indian epics. And I have attempted to retell these stories in a very graceful manner by maintaining the originalities of the chapters, blending it with a lucid narration. And when you look into my second book, it's a very contrast to my first book. It's called Branches Facing the Earth, and it's a collection of short stories which is spiced with a supernatural element. And if you want to know more about me, then I would tell you to please visit my website, anithachakravarthysriram.com, because I don't want to talk more than this about myself. I think my work should speak rather than...
Definitely, ma'am. So, ma'am, like, when it comes to talking specifically about your books, like, there must be a lot of people who would love to explore your books after listening to this podcast. So, when it comes to talking from a very fresh perspective, like a new author, what exactly they can expect from your book? Can you share some insight?
Oh, definitely. So, if you want to know what is the vision regarding my books, as I told you, mythology has always been a childhood favorite for me. But when you think about, when I want to really talk to you about my second book, that is Branches Facing the Earth, I must frankly say it happened by chance. Death was a very difficult emotion to handle, especially when it's a near and dear one. We usually have so many whys running on our mind. It is very difficult to contemplate and conclude. And finally, understanding the fact that we may never get an answer for the many whys, we resort to living on assumptions and faith. Many a time, it would have occurred to us that if only we had one last opportunity to speak to the deceased. So, if one chances upon such an opportunity, what may or can happen next is the plot of every story in Branches Facing the Earth. So, this is what I can tell that the readers can expect from the second book, that is Branches Facing the Earth. And I'm very sure that every reader who reads this book may like one better than the other, depending on their personal fondness. But I'm sure no one would deem any chapter as less compelling.
Okay. So, ma'am, now talking about, like, we have talked about the perspective of a new reader. But when it comes to a person who have read both of your books, like, what they can expect as of now? Is there anything in the pipeline? You're writing something? You want to explore a bit on some other genres as well, experimenting and all, or basically, what's in the pipeline as of now? What they can expect?
My third book is actually on mythology again. I've come back to my basic instinct of mythology again.
Okay.
So I think another 3 to 4 months I am in talks with the publisher. So I think I'll come up with something by then. I don't want to speak too much about it, but it's on mythology.
Okay, definitely, ma'am. I guess, in fact, this much of news is also a kind of celebration for the readers who are eagerly waiting for a book. My next question to you, ma'am, of this podcast is like, I have been in conversation with more than 200 plus authors as of now. And most of them are, working towards a particular, personal branding. They want to be known, they want to be remembered, or, they are working on a personal branding. They want to be known, okay, if this is the author, this kind of book he or she must have been written. So when it comes to you specifically talking about, like, let's say a couple of years from now, if you release a book, okay, it's a new book by Anitha ma'am. Okay, sorry, it's a new book by Dr. Anitha ma'am. Okay, so on that particular note, if a reader has read all your books and he or she sees, okay, it's a new book by ma'am, then what exactly that sudden thought you want to, make on the reader minds? Okay, ma'am की book है तो ऐसी होगी. Have you ever thought about this strategy?
If you use a word called brand, I would say it's a very overrated terminology according to me. I cannot really visualize myself as a brand. I would rather say I want to inspire the younger generation of men and women to read our Itihasas and Puranas. I am not saying please read my book on Itihasas and Puranas, but I definitely want to inspire the younger generation to read Itihasas and Puranas on the whole. I want to eliminate the fact that their belief of these topics are very boring. It's very hard to understand, or it's very complicated, and it cannot be applied into the daily life, is what I want to eliminate from their minds. In fact, when I go out to give a multitude of lectures on these topics in colleges and schools, I essentially make it very simple to understand. And I've also realized, for making it simple, as a writer, I must write a considerably good narrative. There's one long-term vision that I have in my mind.
Okay.
The vision is to ignite the interest of Indian mythology reading and its application in daily life amidst our readers. So that's why I want to particularly appeal to the younger masses of men and women who read such books. Please remember that if you read such book, you will not emerge out to be a great scholar. But if you do, that's a very fine thing. But I have felt that you can develop considerable courage and goodwill to remain stronger and face the situations of life in a more disciplined manner. That is what is my vision for the future. And if you call this a brand, all right, you can say so. But I want to inspire people to do so, rather than being just a brand.
Okay, ma'am. In fact, we truly feel blessed when we come across the authors who think something beyond the financial thing, because most of them are just revolving around that red tag of best selling and all. But it feels great that finally our podcast is we are sharing this podcast with the kind of authors who are thinking something beyond this financial thing, and they're doing something for the society. And thank you so much for coming for this, ma'am. We truly feel blessed to share this particular episode with you. Moreover, my next question to you, ma'am, is like what I have personally seen, that after the first lockdown was over, the numbers of authors got increased very rapidly. Like, there was a boom basically in this book industry. So when it comes to, like, you have completed this whole journey, like you are on the other side of the river as of now. So what exactly, like, what do you think, like, आज अपने book को stand out कराना कितना मुश्किल हो गया? How difficult it has become to make your book stand out as of now? Because if we can definitely say that hundreds of books are being published on a weekly basis. Publishing has become much more easier. Kindle, KDP is there, literary agents are there, lots of self-publishing, publishing houses are there. So how difficult it has become in today's time to, just make your book stand out in the market?
See, uh, we're in a very competitive world today, and thanks to the social media handles that also get you such a quick recognition.
Huh.
But I felt this is not very important. But it's very important or quintessential to stay the same way, last long. That is what I mean. Come what may. You should just not feel that the kind of trigger that you get, an overnight success that you get from social media should not stop you from pursuing or anything any further. So you must go come what may. So it's very essential that you have to motivate yourself and continue your good work. As you keep going higher, I realize there's always a trigger of toughness, but there is no point of giving it up at all. Whether you get 1 like or 1,000 likes, it should never put you down. That's what I mean. Or even if you get one reader who's able to appreciate your work, you should be very, very thrilled about it. You should not brood about what happens to the other 1,000 people. So what is very essential, I have believed in, is the success is not overnight. You have to have a constant perseverance, and you have to fight your way through all times so that you can stay. So what essentially one has to remember is the competition is not really outside. It is within yourself. The first thing is your work should bring you pleasure and happiness rather than having the thoughts of who likes it more. So that sort of a motivation is what is required at the present day situation. Because I have seen people coming up, becoming very famous, and overnight also going down. So the graph goes high and also comes down. But that is not essentially the requirement. You need to ensure that you compete with yourself every day. All that you can do from your side would be to make yourself better every day, acquire more knowledge, just keep doing your duty and not be worried about anything, anybody's factors at all. This is what I believe in the word of competition. This is exactly how I go about it.
In fact, ma'am, that's completely a fresh perspective what I have heard as of now. And there's something I wanted to share, like add on this particular thing as well, that when it comes to writing, I have personally seen that except a few authors, not everyone is a full-time author, right? Like this is not something we are doing completely as a full-time. So what exactly my point is, like, we are doing something which is our primary, like for our bread and butter, we are doing something. In that particular thing, there's a lot of competition and which we are facing every day. So when it comes to something like writing, we are following our passion, and if we join passion with this competition and everything, then that that soothness, that sukoon just fades away. Okay, ठीक है, यहाँ पर भी आपने competition डाल दिया, and finally there's nothing which gives peace to you, right?
Correct.
So this is something I'm completely taking personally from this podcast. Okay, when it comes to passion, just avoid the this competition thing, and you'll definitely feel peace. And probably that's the most important thing at the end of the day.
Very true, very true. See, if you inspire somebody else to write because of you, that's a reward in itself. So you don't have to really worry about what is going to happen next, or is my ink selling well every day. That thought should never be in you. What I'm saying is you have to ensure that you have a discipline, you have a duty towards whatever it may be writing, it may be reading, it may be anything, any activity that you pursue. But you must have a dedication, you must have a discipline towards it, and not expect much returns from it. You must do it because it gives you happiness. Ultimately, the success will come. But you must do it because it is very important and very essential that you stay with the essential motivation. So many of them, where I also teach, so there are many students who feel that they're not very successful and all that thing. So what I tell them is, please remember, even I am yet to see any success in life. So I really don't know what is the meaning of success. But in the recent times, what I have realized is people are becoming popular overnight because of the social media, which causes a concern not only to them, but to many of them who have a insecurity complex. So what I tell my students is, it's very, very essential that you have to remain in the market. That is market of anything, for which you must have consistency and perseverance. Beyond that, don't have any other expectation from your work. You keep yourself motivated, you have a consistency, and you have to be very passionate about whatever you're doing. That will give you the reward, and that reward will be very slow, but it will be self-sustaining. It won't be a sudden high and then a dip. So don't expect success to come that way. It should be very slow. You must enjoy every bit of success. That is what I believe in success.
So, ma'am, like when it comes to writing, what is your current writing schedule? Like, do you devote every day some hours to writing, or it's like random? Sometimes you get some thoughts, some snippets, you just jot it down on your phone, on your diary, and after sometimes when you get time, you just expand them. Like, how does it go with you?
I was previously having a diary and I would note down things, but I also have the habit of losing it. And when I lost some of the diaries several times, I abolished having that habit. But I realized a writer by profession usually will have a very stipulated work timing to write. I have seen many writers who prefer the morning hours and so on. But I have more preference to the late evening hours because that is when my schedules are completed. My morning hours will have more of a professional incumbent, so it keeps me very, very busy. But what I want to tell all the people who write or who want to pursue a career into writing is, if you want to be a writer for a long period of time, then you must have a plan. You must have a planning, and that planning will lead you to have a disciplined life of work. So you have to be disciplined to the work schedule that you have planned to execute. So we have to always remember that we are always running short of time. So you must never waste your time on unnecessary activity and unnecessary banters. But you must only keep all your mind and focus towards what you want to become, what you plan to do. Many times I tell my students that if you are not indulging yourself in certain activity, it doesn't mean you're uncool or anything. You are doing what is ethical from your point of view. And if you feel that is the right thing, just do what is correct. You don't have to please any friend of yours. You must ensure that you have very little time in this world and make sure you use that time for the best. That's my simplest advice when it comes to writers especially.
So, ma'am, like as of now, we have talked about your book, about your journey, about your upcoming projects and everything. Now, coming to your personal life, like there must be a lot of moments which you must tag as the happiest moment in your life. And if you can share any one of them with us, then that would be really great.
The happiest is when my son was born. I was very, very happy. That is probably the very happiest day of my life. But I'm a very eccentric person, you can call me. I believe that it's very difficult to say which is your very happiest day or which is your difficult day. God is very, very clever. That's what I have realized over the time. He's ensured that whatever 24 hours of the day he gives you, apart from the 6 to 8 hours of sleep, where you have your dreams and imaginations and things going up, he ensures your day has both happiness and difficulties. And he's very, very fair about it. And he's ensured that I have it, you have it, everybody else have it. So it's kind of mediocre every day for me. But happiest maybe is only the day my son was born. Apart from that, yes, every day just keeps going with both good and bad. I essentially focus on how I have improved myself or what can I do next. That is the only thought that I always have in the back of my mind. So I don't really give too much thoughts about is it very happy today, is it okay today, thank God the day is over. These things I don't think. I feel perturbed about what I did today and I have wasted my time on this. So that kind of scare and fear is what I usually have all the time.
So, ma'am, my next question of the podcast is, let's go back to the time when you heard about your first book. Okay, tomorrow your book will be live in the front of whole world. Yes. The whole world will be able to judge you, will be able to, just see your work, what you have done in so many years, so many, days, what you have written basically. So on that particular eve, what was going on in your mind? Like, were you excited? Were you relaxed? Were you just marked up some milestones? Okay, these many people know me. My book has to be sold out these many copies. What was going on in your mind at that time?
No, the first day, that's exactly what I felt. How many are going? Are people even recognizing it? I'm so new to it. Will people even care to look at me? These were the thoughts that I had. Probably that was there for about a week. Then later on, I realized that it's not important to feel so stressed. There are so many people out there who are much better than me, who are more talented than me, are still waiting for their opportunity. So I've just begun. So I have a long way to go. That's how I pacified myself after about a week. But of course, who wouldn't be stressed about their work? Because it's like an examination itself, and all the readers are like the paper evaluators, and the pass mark depends on their correction. So I did feel the stress of it. And when you receive good comments for this, you feel extremely satisfied. But what I have realized over the last 3-4 years is it's all worth at the end of the day.
So, ma'am, probably my last question to of this podcast is after listening to this podcast, many people will start writing, many people will be holding their first draft in the laptop, in their diary. So, what would be your advice for those upcoming authors?
See, I never went to a university to study a writing course. So whatever I tell you about writing is from my experience and how I've overcome it. A writer by occupation, as I already told you, will have a very fixed time of writing. But my profession never allowed me to be so. And I could not allot a very stipulated right timing as well. However, if you intend to be a writer for a long period of time, then you must have a solid plan. It is also, please remember that it's essential to live your life. It's not only about writing or your career or profession or anything else. You have to live your life as well. You have a family. You have so many other social obligations. So I'm giving you a small idea how to highlight on all this. So you need to plan. And this planning is a very important thing to discipline oneself. What I have learned is, what I have been doing is, I write every day, irrespective of my schedules. So I prefer the late evening hours to write, at least a few words in a day. You should never put off your work, because that shouldn't become a routine. And why am I insisting on writing every day is because over a time, you can develop an author's block. It's very difficult to overcome this block unless you have another solid plan. So keeping all those days in mind, it's very good to begin your book and make sure you flow with it every day. Also remember that if you become a writer, you're very much obliged to read more. You must make it a habit to read whenever you get time off for yourself. I believe that these are some gentle steps that can make you a better person, a better writer, a better reader, and some valuable person to the society.
Okay, so that's all for today, guys. I hope you must have enjoyed this lovely and inspiring conversation with Dr. Anitha. And if you do, then do follow our podcast, Reading the Author, available on all the leading podcast platforms. And don't forget to read and share this book. आप just Amazon पे जाएं, you can search Dr. Anitha Sriram, Dr. Anitha Chakravarthy Sriram. मैम की बुक आ जाएगी, जरूर खरीदें, पढ़ें, अपने जानने वाले चैनल को जरूर शेयर करें. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming on our podcast. I'm truly grateful that I was able to host you today.
Thank you so much, Gaurav. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.